हाय गाइस, मेरा नाम है लक्ष्मी नारायण मिश्रा और मैं दिल्ली विश्वविद्यालय में इतिहास विषय से स्नातक का छात्र हूँ। दरअसल यह बात आपने तो बचपन से सुनी होगी कि अमेरिका की खोज क्रिस्टोफर कोलंबस ने की थी। परंतु वास्तविक सच तो यह है कि क्रिस्टोफर कोलंबस को अपने जीवन काल के अंतिम क्षणों तक यह बात पता ही नहीं चली कि उसने जिन द्वीपों की खोज की है वह एक अमेरिकी द्वीप है। 10 साल अगर क्रिस्टोफर कोलंबस की बात करें तो इसका जन्म 31 अक्टूबर 1451 ईस्वी को हुआ था। इसके जन्म के विषय में कई विवादास्पद तथ्य सामने आते हैं, जैसे कि इसका जन्म पुर्तगाल में हुआ था, तो वहीं दूसरी ओर कुछ विश्लेषकों, कुछ आलोचकों का मानना है कि इसका जन्म इटली में हुआ था। इसके 10 साल की उम्र से ही क्रिस्टोफर कोलंबस का जो रुझान था वो समुद्री यात्राओं की तरफ होने लग गया था। दरअसल उस समय का संदर्भ भी कुछ ऐसा है कि जो यूरोप था और एशिया के बीच में जो व्यापार होता था वो रोमन साम्राज्य के काल से ही, यानी प्राचीन काल से ही व्यापार चला आ रहा था। परंतु जैसे ही 1453 में उस्मानी साम्राज्य ने कुस्तुनतुनिया पर अधिकार प्राप्त कर लिया, वैसे ही जिस मार्ग से यूरोप और एशिया के बीच में व्यापार होता था उस पर ऑटोमन साम्राज्य का कब्जा हो गया। उस समय यूरोप के अन्य देशों जैसे स्पेन और पुर्तगाल ने वैकल्पिक समुद्री मार्गों की खोज करनी शुरू की और इसी क्रम में क्रिस्टोफर कोलंबस ने अपना एक प्रस्ताव, समुद्री यात्राओं का प्रस्ताव पुर्तगाल के शासक जॉन द्वितीय को पेश किया था, जिसमें कोलंबस ने इस प्रकार की शर्तें रखी थी कि कोलंबस अगर भारत भूमि को खोजने में सफल रहता है तो पुर्तगाल के शासक उसे वहाँ का वायसराय बना देंगे और साथ ही पुर्तगाल के शासक भारत भूमि से जितना भी लाभांश कमाएंगे उसका 10% कोलंबस को देना पड़ेगा। इस तरीके की शर्तों को मानने के लिए प्रस्ताव जो था वो उस राजा जॉन द्वितीय के पास भेजा गया, रखा, परंतु जॉन द्वितीय ने इस प्रस्ताव को स्वीकार करने से मना कर दिया। कोलंबस ने यही अपना प्रस्ताव स्पेन के शासक के पास दी। वहाँ की संयुक्त सरकार अरागन के राजा फर्डिनेंड सेकंड और कास्टाइल की इसाबेला को अपना प्रस्ताव पेश किया और कहा कि क्रिस्टोफर कोलंबस ने यह बात समक्ष रखी उनके कि उसकी समुद्री यात्रा को स्पेन की सरकार स्पॉन्सर करे। 1485 से 1492 तक कोलंबस के जो प्रयास, समुद्री यात्राओं के प्रयास थे वो चलते रहे और अंततः 1492 में कोलंबस को सफलता मिली। स्पेन इस बात के लिए तैयार हो गया कि वह कोलंबस को समुद्री यात्राओं के लिए भेजेगा, उसका खर्च उठाएगा। इस प्रकार कोलंबस ने कुल 4 यात्राएं की थी, 4 समुद्री यात्राएं की, जिनमें उसकी पहली समुद्री यात्रा 1492 से लेकर 1493, फिर दूसरी समुद्री यात्रा 1493 से 96 और तीसरी 1498 से 1500 और चौथी समुद्री यात्रा 1502 से 1504 ईस्वी के बीच में थी। इसी क्रम में अगर बात करें तो कोलंबस पर ब्रुटैलिटी के भी आरोप लगते हैं। कई इतिहासकारों ने यह बात इस बात की पुष्टि की है कि जब कोलंबस अपनी पहली समुद्री यात्रा से बहामास द्वीप पहुंचा था तो उसका सामना वहाँ के इंडिजिनस लोगों से हुआ, वहाँ के स्वदेशी लोगों से हुआ, समुदायों से हुआ और कोलंबस को वहाँ के लोगों का रहन सहन, वहाँ की शैली, वहाँ का खान पान पसंद नहीं आया। इस वजह से कोलंबस ने उन जातीय समूहों के साथ अत्याचार किया। इसी प्रकार का एक संदर्भ हमें और मिलता है जो कोलंबस के चारित्रिक जो उसकी महिमा मंडन है उस पर दाग लगाने का काम करता है। दरअसल यह संदर्भ यह है कि कोलंबस ने अपने क्रू मेंबर, यानी जो उसके समुद्री सहयात्री थे, उनके साथ ही बहुत ही घटिया तरीके का व्यवहार किया था। या यूँ कह सकते हैं कि कोई भी अगर क्रू मेंबर कोलंबस की बातों से सहमत नहीं होता था या कोलंबस की बातों से विरोध प्रकट करता था तो कोलंबस उसे डेथ पेनल्टी दे देता था। इस प्रकार की जो चारित्रिक विशेषताएं थी वो कोलंबस के सारे महिमा मंडन को जो उसने हासिल की थी, द्वीपों को खोजकर, बहामास द्वीपों को खोजकर, क्यूबा को खोजकर, और इसके बदले में स्पेन की सरकार ने कोलंबस को कई उपहार दिए थे, विशेष पद दिए थे, वो सारे इसी चारित्रिक विशेषताओं के कारण कोलंबस से छीन लिए गए। इस प्रकार जो कोलंबस का वो अंत रहा वो काफ़ी दयनीय रहा और मरते दम तक कोलंबस को इस बात का पता नहीं चला कि कोलंबस ने जिस भूमि की खोज की है वह इंडिया नहीं बल्कि एक अमेरिकी द्वीप है। अब इसके बाद हम कोलंबस के बारे में विस्तार से जानकारी देंगी हमारी अगली सहपाठिका। थैंक यू।
To supply the ships and men for his trip.
I will discover a shortcut to India and bring back some of the great wealth I find there. And I can do it, for I know the world is round. And instead of going east to India, I shall sail west and reach India around the other way. It will be a shorter and cheaper way, for I'll do it all by sea.
Queen Isabella provided Columbus with 3 ships, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. And on August 3rd, 1492, they set sail across the unknown.
The legacy of Christopher Columbus is complex, whose actions and voyages have had a profound impact on the Americas and beyond. His arrival in the New World marked the beginning of an era, but it also brought about significant consequences for the indigenous people of the Americas. It is estimated that the warfare and violence perpetrated by Columbus and his men led to decimation of 90% of the Native American population. Despite this devastating impact, the immediate response to Columbus's voyages in Europe was largely positive. His journey was celebrated as symbols of freedom and new beginnings, and inspired people all across Europe. However, this celebration came at the cost, and the cost was the exploitation of Native Americans and the forced displacement from their homeland. 18th century saw a rise in the recognition for Columbus's achievements, particularly in North America. As the colonies broke away from British rule, there was a need for a mythical hero to justify their newfound independence. Columbus, with his non-British background and perceived mistreatment by the Spanish monarchs, was chosen to represent the shift from the old to the new world. The first Columbus Day was celebrated in 1792 on the 300th anniversary of his first voyages, further solidifying his status as a national hero. In the 19th century, Columbus's image was further glorified through literature and art. His first serious biography was written by Washington Irving in 1828 and portrayed him in a very positive light and set the stage for the adulation and appreciation that would follow. Statues, literature, and paintings were created in his honor, and towns in USA were named after him. Even the Vatican published a biography in 1856 which compared him to Jesus Christ. The 400-year celebration in 1892 and the Chicago World Fair of 1893, whose theme was Columbus's expeditions, were the pinnacle of this celebration. Columbus was integrated into the school systems with students pledging allegiance to the flag for the first time. By early 20th century, Columbus Day had become an established holiday in many parts of the US. In 1937, President Franklin Roosevelt declared Columbus Day to be a national federal holiday, in part due to the lobbying done by the Knights of Columbus, an Italian Catholic fraternal organization. The Knights of Columbus has an interesting backstory. In 1800s, Italian immigration to US increased, and in order to assimilate well in the American culture, there was a sentiment of accepting Columbus as their Italian ancestor and deeply emphasizing his connections to Catholicism. These immigrants came together and formed the Knights of Columbus, which rapidly became popular in the United States. From the mid 20th century, perceptions on Columbus started changing. People's attitude towards him began to change as more and more civil rights movements came into being, and they brought attention to the exploitation and enslavement of the Native Americans, and that shifted the narrative from one of discovery of the Americas to one of invasion and encounter with existing cultures and civilizations. Today, many places in the US have renamed Columbus Day to Native American Day or Indigenous Peoples Day, reflecting a growing recognition of the need to honor the cultures and contributions of indigenous peoples. In popular culture, there is also an increased emphasis on on the plight and the problems suffered by Native Americans due to these repeated invasion by Columbus, which was started repeated invasions by Columbus. The myth of Columbus as a heroic explorer is now being confronted with the brutal reality of his action, forcing us to reconsider which myths and heroes we choose to hold on to in our quest for unity and belonging.
As we have seen how Christopher Columbus was presented as a figure of the empire by Europeans as the first imperial conqueror in the New World, from celebrating the Columbus Day to linking his lineage to the Roman Empire as the founder of a new Christian world in the US, has now in the modern times been criticized. Today, Native American population does not join with the rest of America in celebration of Columbus. I will elaborate this perspective on the basis of a textual source known as An American Indian Perspective on Columbus, an Indian Education Curriculum Unit by Esther Stutzman in 1992. The content of this curriculum guide was developed under a grant, the Indian Education Programs Department of Education. A lot of theories exist about how Indians got to North America. The most common explanation is that migrating tribes crossed a land bridge from Asia to Alaska. From there, the tribes spread southward, eventually taking up residence in all parts of the US. But there is another side to the story. Nowhere in the histories of Indian people is it found that there was a migration across the snowy stretches of a new land. Webster's dictionary defines discovery as the first to find out. Archaeological data shows that Indian people have been in America for well over 60,000 years. In the history books that students read, the word discover is consistently used with the voyages of Columbus. In fact, many timeline shows 1492 AD as the beginning of American history. Recently, there has been much research into the origins of Columbus with little result of definite historical facts. Most commonly, it is agreed that he was the son of a weaver, but his birthplace is disputed. Genoa, Corsica, and Spain all claim him to be a native son. In addition, his name is in dispute since he changed it to fit the language of the country he lived in. Christopher Columbus is merely the English version of his name, taken from a variety of spellings. He was not always a sailor and navigator, he was a weaver and a tradesman before the lure of navigations. He became interested in finding sources of natural riches such as spices and goods. He was looking for a way to make profits. Contrary to popular notions, Queen Isabel of Spain did not pawn the royal jewels to finance Columbus' expeditions. At the time, the Spanish treasury was poor from the many battles which were fought. At last, through financial jugglings and loans, Spain managed to finance his expedition. In return for the riches he hoped to bring back, Columbus insisted on 10% of the bounty, not just for his voyages but for all subsequent exploration because of his pioneering efforts. Most historians agree on the fact that Columbus set sail from Spain with 3 ships. After a month in the Canary Islands, he set his sail again on 6 September 1492. On October 12, land was sighted and the voyagers came to land. Another inaccurate historical item we see is that Columbus himself was the first one who sighted land. Recent research shows that one of the shipmen saw land and shouted first, since the royalty of Spain promised great riches to the first shipman a small amount and wrote in his log that he himself was indeed the first to see the New World. Columbus made 4 voyages. After each voyage and return to Spain, Columbus demanded more and more profits and titles. The Spanish treasury, although growing from the plunder in the New World, was not rich enough to give Columbus his ever increasing percentages. On several occasions, Isabel withdrew her original contracts with Columbus because of his insistence on a larger and larger share. Columbus became a proverbial thorn in the side to the Spanish royalty as well as to his fellow merchants. His boasting and profiteering made him a nuisance to the extent that he was ultimately shunned by his peers. In 1506, he died in Spain, where his remains are buried. Today is still a mystery since they were moved several times. Like these contradictions, Esther Stutzman in her curriculum guide to teachers mention about the contents to unlearn the stereotypes. Many Indian references, words, and phrases exist today in the form of stereotypes. Most educators today see that the Columbus myth has been distorted in textbooks, novels, and movies. The truth of outright genocide has been ignored to the point that children who read the glorified account of 1492 see a glorious conquest. Nowhere in the textbooks do we see the condemnation of the exploitation, racism, and inequality. Coming back from where I took up, the Americans think of Columbus as a national symbol. The question that arises is why would nationalists of the newly independent states of Americas, who recently freed themselves from the bonds of the imperial colonizer, look to Columbus, an archetype of empire, when searching for a national symbol, which call the US as a nation state? American nationalism on the concept of nation state is characterized by anti-colonial. This is hence contradicted. Therefore, different ways of understanding the various conflicts and convergences with different perspective in the modern period have come to light.
So, as we've already observed and as we've already seen, the 1990s was a time that the Native Americans were trying to reclaim their own history through textbooks. Meanwhile, the 1990s was also a time where some faction of the people were still trying to hold on to the older version of the conquest, and this can be observed in the documentary that we analyzed belonging to the year 1992, titled 1492 The Conquest of Paradise. ये डॉक्यूमेंट्री कोलंबस की वॉयज का एक बहुत ही हेरोइक डिपिक्शन है विच इज़ अ वेरी रोमांटिसाइज्ड वर्जन ऑफ द एक्चुअल बुक. सो वी आर गोइंग टू कंपेयर इट साइड बाय साइड विद द कोलंबस वॉयजेस टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट दिस बुक डिड not mention and what this book did mention that had actually not happened. So one of these things that I noticed was that इसमें मूवी में बताया गया है कि कोलंबस को बहुत ज़्यादा रेजिस्टेंस फेस करनी पड़ी, नॉट ओनली फ्रॉम द डिफरेंट प्लेसेस एंड द डिफरेंट क्राउन्स दैट ही वेंट टू, बट ऑल्सो फ्रॉम डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ पीपल इन स्पेन. बहुत सारे लोग थे जो कोलंबस को हेट करते थे जस्ट बिकॉज ही वॉज एम्बिशियस इनफ टू लुक फॉर अ रूट टू एशिया दैट इज़ नॉट फ्रॉम अराउंड द अफ्रीकाज. However, Columbus की voyage में there is no mention of actual personal resistance before he actually went to the voyage. It's just been mentioned कि उसे एक दो जगहों पे जाना पड़ा before it was finally approved by the monarchs of the Spain. एक और एडिशनल चीज़ ये है कि टू पोर्ट्रे हिम एज अगेन एज अ हीरो, ऐसा बताया गया है कि सेंटा मरीना पे बहुत बड़ी एक काइंड ऑफ म्यूटनी हुई थी ऑफ एवरीबडी हु वाज ऑन क्रू बिकॉज कोलंबस यूज्ड टू टेल देम ऑल द डिफरेंट मेजरमेंट्स ऑफ लैंड. दिस इज समथिंग दैट वी हैव सीन इन द वॉयज एज वेल. हाउएवर देयर इज नो मेंशन ऑफ अ म्यूटनी. इसमें बताया गया है कि वो म्यूटनी ट्रिगर की थी बाय पिंजॉन ने, हु वाज द अदर एडमिरल एंड हु वाज जेलस ऑफ कोलंबस, एंड कोलंबस ने बहुत ही स्मार्टली और बहुत ही चीज़ें बताकर उसने वो म्यूटनी क्वेल कर दी. So this is also something that has been actually dramatized just to make Columbus the center of everything that was going on around there. Another very important difference that I noticed was in the behavior and the treatment of natives in the voyage and the thing that has been depicted. इसमें बताया गया है, we have noticed this pattern in the voyage constantly कि कोलंबस जब भी किसी भी आइलैंड में लैंड होता था, he used to tell us that the natives used to run away, they used to leave everything behind and they used to run away because they were afraid of the Europeans. However, in the movie it's been depicted that the natives would come to the Europeans, touch them because they were physically so different from them and they were so awed by the Europeans. This is something that I believe, अगर मैं contemporary lens से देखूँ, so it has a kind of a racist undertone to the same. There is also a line by Columbus in the movie, and I quote, "Because of our appearance, we have been mistaken for gods by these simple people." This means that कोलंबस ये बहुत ही यूरोसेंट्रिक आइडिया है जो कहा जाता है कि जो आर्यन यूरोपियन फीचर्स होते हैं दे आर अकिन टू गॉड, while on the other hand the barbaric features are not. So this idea was not mentioned anywhere in the voyage of the Columbus's logbook, as he just mentions that the Native Americans do see them as gods, but only because of the reason that they come from the sea, they come from a place that they've never seen before, and the Native Americans, they worship religion and God in nature, so they believe that people who come from the sky must be people of the god. Apart from this, we believe in the end of the movie it's been shown that Columbus was a victim of many बहुत ज़्यादा forgeries by his own people. It has been shown कि उसके साथ जो भी nobles आए थे of Spain in the second voyage, they were trying to manipulate and sabotage everything in his career. They were trying to badmouth him to the queen, as he did not get any substantial gold in his both in his both conquests. ये भी बताया गया है कि बहुत कोलंबस वॉज अ वेरी जस्ट पर्सन, जो बहुत ही ज़्यादा जस्टिस करते थे टू द नेटिव अमेरिकन्स, वाइल ऑन द अदर हैंड जो दूसरे कोलंबस के साथ जो लोग आए हुए थे, दे वर वेरी बारबैरिक एंड दे कॉन्स्टेंटली यूज टू बी वायलेंट विद द नेटिव अमेरिकन्स, वाइल कोलंबस वुड ट्राई हिज बेस्ट टू स्टॉप दैम. So this is something that we can see as an attempt to bring Columbus back in the center as a good guy, or kind of an attempt to revamp his image as a person who has been wronged by history, just in time when the Native Americans are trying to reclaim its history. So it is kind of a counterpose in time. We can also see that there has been a change in the depiction of Columbus through the period of time. We can see that documentaries do not portray him in the same light as it used to in 1990s, which is why Armanica will now analyze a documentary which is more recent to understand, is there any similarity in both, or it's only difference that we have observed in the depiction of the conquest as well as Columbus in media in the period of time.
The documentary that now I am going to take up is a much more recent one. It was produced in the March of 2024, and it's called Columbus into the New World. But before beginning, something I would like to point out right in the right now is, we notice that even in documentaries which are created today, at a time when the world is finally recognizing the problems of centuries of glorification of Columbus and his voyages, and when the terminology is finally witnessing a shift from discovery to conquest to holocaust even now. But these documentaries produced today in this day and age are still glossing over and largely ignoring how Columbus's actions created a 500-year pattern of cruelty and oppression of people of color in the Americas. The point of emphasis only changes from earlier documentaries to now. We see that there's only a change from earlier, there was an exaltation of Columbus, as a hero who conquered the uncivilized and brought to them the light of Christianity, to now there is a feeling of pity and sympathy towards him, who a man who passed away without even being able to reap the sweet fruits of his labor. So, delving now into the analysis of the documentary, the first thing I noted was how this documentary makes only a passing remark on slaves captured, on the aspect of slavery, which is very pertinent to the entire voyages. Because we know that Columbus was the first European to enslave the inhabitants of the New World, but also, we get it from Christopher Columbus's four voyages that the crown was not interested in slaves. It was interested in gold, and it was interested in tax-paying citizens. But in the absence of these, of course, he needed to find some way to justify his expedition. So, so began the enslaving the native population, and also he gave them as forced labor, in the form of forced labor, to the men who had accompanied him in in with the expectations of gold. So this forced labor soon became institutionalized in the form of the repartimiento and encomienda systems, with repercussions in Latin America coming right down to the 19th century, where in places like Ecuador, forced labor tribute was still required of Indians in the form of tax, as a tax. These are the things that the documentary has completely ignored. Also, it's important to know that it was during this period, okay, enslavement of the indigenous people had helped to depopulate the Caribbeans, and it was during this time that African slaves were brought in as compensation for the drop in Native American population, and of course, the well-known legacy of slavery in the Americas then. Another important thing to note is how, not just in this documentary, in a lot of the others as well, the native people are given a very passive role in the entire description. There is no mention of how, what we have read in the Voyages, in fact, how
these people, the Native Americans, were often taken as captives aboard the Nina and Pinta, and they helped in in Columbus exploring the islands nearby. Something interesting that a scholar has noted, a scholar called Fernandez Armesto, he says that there was a historic hatred among indigenous people which played a major role, and this gives an active voice to these people because it shows that they initially, at least, they chose to freely associate with the Spaniards because the newcomers were not enmeshed in local hatreds. And they welcomed the Spaniards, hoping that this accommodation would work for them. One aspect that I don't know how a documentary produced now in this day and age could gloss over is the cruelty, the abuse, and the depopulation witnessed because the discovery and the conquest of America, it witnessed what we would call today as massive human right abuses. The bloody practice of punishing native people by mutilation began under Columbus's direction, and the demographic disaster of the next 2 centuries is unprecedented in the annals of history. And of course, again, there's absolutely no mention of the ill treatment of the native women because Columbus had a habit of rewarding his men with women when he could not find gold. And in fact, this is something that we read that in the voyages, the explorers even boast about, the Spaniards who had accompanied Columbus, they even boast about how, for instance, an incident of taking the Caribs captive was recorded by one of the admiral's Italian lieutenants called Michel de Cuneo, who says how, the admiral gifted him the Carib woman to satisfy his, to pleasure him. So, by the end of the documentary, we see that while not directly calling Columbus a hero, it does unquestionably glorify him as a historical figure. And it says that Columbus rediscovered the New World in 1492, but it does not mention how he did not even set foot on the American mainland. And at the end, there's an end note of sympathy for Columbus that when he died, he believed in 1506 when he died, he believed that his work had ended in failure and a western route to Asia was not found, nor was any gold found. And how if he had lived to see that there indeed existed a western route to Asia, which Ferdinand Magellan finally found, and how, because of Hernan Cortez's conquest of the Aztec Empire, Spain, went on a road to obtain vast riches from the Americas. How, if Columbus had lived to see those events, he might have believed that his life's work had ended in success. So there's a note of sympathy, of pity. But there's no mention of the effect of this legacy on the Native Americans, of the discovery or the conquest of Americas, what effect this had on the Native Americans, and how the gradual conquest and colonization of Americas by the Europeans after Columbus led to the near wipeout of the native civilizations, indeed a genocide. How every trace of their culture was sought to be destroyed in an attempt to civilize them and to Christianize these barbarians.